Greetings all, and welcome back to Simple Living Happy Home. Getting a grip on your finances can offer a variety of mental and financial freedoms. So today I'm going to walk you through how my husband and I used budgeting to help us achieve our financial freedom. Money can be a pretty hot topic, but I'm not here to tell you how to live your life. I just want to give you some ideas and tricks that my husband and I have used that will potentially give you better control over your finances. To have better control, you need to have a very clear idea of what is going to be coming in and what is going to be going out. Depending on your job situation, your income may fluctuate, and that's okay. How you compensate for that is by spending what you've already been paid rather than spending what you might get paid. So when we budget, we actually budget with the money that we were paid the month prior. So we already know exactly how much money we have to use each month. Next, you want to make a list of all your expenses. When my husband and I got married, we sat down with my sister, who used to be a financial advisor, and she walked us through how to set up a basic budget. She helped us to account for things that we would have forgotten about, like insurance and personal care items, those things that you need to pay for, but you don't necessarily think about on a day-to-day basis. Especially when budgeting for things like insurance and licenses, she allowed us to make sure that we had money set aside so when we did have to pay for those things, we already had the money allocated, so we didn't have to try to take a large chunk out of our monthly budget to cover those expenses. She also helped us assign dollar amounts to other categories so that they were realistic, like food and gas. The final thing she did that was really helpful was she helped us to make sure we assigned petty cash, which is basically just a small amount of money that each of us was allotted to be able to spend as we wished. By having that solid and comprehensive budget, it allowed us to know exactly where our money was going and exactly how much money we had available to be able to put towards debt. In another video, I'll go through how we paid off almost $250,000 in less than 5 years. And speaking of debt, use your budget to help get yourself out of debt as quickly as possible. Any debt that has interest accruing means that that interest is a small amount of money that is not buying you anything. You could actually be spending on something that you would consider to be more important. Even those debts that may not be accruing interest still mean that there is money in your bank account that is technically not yours. And if anything were to happen where your income goes away, those debts would still need to be paid. To give yourself that financial and mental freedom, pay those debts off as quickly as possible. So that way you'll have full control over where your money is going. When making any large purchases, plan ahead for those months in advance and set aside a little bit of money each month leading up to it, so that way you don't need to take out a loan to cover it and you won't need to accrue credit card debt in order to afford those things. So for instance, if you know you're going to be taking a trip or a vacation, start setting money aside for that trip multiple months in advance, so when it gets time to actually take the trip, you'll already have all the money set aside, so it becomes like an all expenses paid vacation that you're gifting yourself, and you don't have to worry about any bills that come later because you already have the money set aside to take care of it. When it comes to budgeting, if you're budgeting by yourself, it can be easier in many ways. You're the one who gets to make all the decisions. You don't have to agree on anything with another person. If you are budgeting with a spouse or a significant other, you do have to spend more time, and you should spend more time budgeting and agreeing on things. However, it gives you an automatic accountability partner and somebody who's invested in the situation just as much as you are. Those that are budgeting by themselves can recruit a friend or a family member to help be their accountability partner. But since that other person probably won't have as much invested into the situation, their influence may not be as strong as a significant other or spouse. It's always helpful to have a visible record of your budget, debt payoff, and make sure you give yourself small rewards along the way. For example, if you want to buy a new coat but don't necessarily need to buy a new coat, write it down on a list of things that you would like to purchase for yourself. Then, when you get to a month where you've stayed on budget with all of your categories, take some money, set it aside for you to actually purchase that coat for yourself as the reward for doing well and sticking to your budget. This is positive reinforcement, and it can be a powerful thing. If you are budgeting with a spouse or significant other, I cannot emphasize enough that you need to spend time getting on the same page about what your financial goals and dreams are. Make sure that you dream big for your long-term goals, but don't forget about those small victories that you'll need to accomplish along the way. My husband's and my goal is to spend the last 10 to 15 years of our working careers traveling and living out of a tiny house, and then being able to retire at around 58 or 59. It's a big goal, and it's not going to happen on its own without a lot of investment from both of us. Being invested in it, we're both taking steps even at our early 30s right now to make sure that that goal happens. My husband's going back to school to become a PA so we can put more towards our retirement, as well as some continuing education that I'm doing to increase my versatility. We wouldn't be willing to go through all this work and this process if we weren't invested in our ultimate goal of retiring at 59. Another thing that's really helped my husband and I is using a budgeting app. The one that we use is called Monify, and it allows us to sync our budget between our phones so that at any given moment, I can pull up my phone or my husband can grab his, pull up the app, and know exactly how much money we have in each category for that month. There are a lot of different apps out there, but Monify just happens to be the one that we've been using for the last 5 years, and it's worked really well for us. An app becomes really handy, especially when you're going shopping and you see something that is a really great deal or would be really nice to have. You can pull up that app and check your budget to see, is that item within the confines of your budget for that month, or are you going to need to set aside some money to purchase that item later on? Most of the time we talk about meal planning in regards to nutrition, but it also helps a ton with saving you money. If you know what you need to buy for each meal of that week, it's going to help you prevent impulse buying, and it's going to allow you to look in your kitchen to see, are there things that you would need for that week that you already have, so you don't have to buy additional items. The other thing meal planning helps with is to prevent you from making those stops on the way home at the fast food restaurant, because you know that there's a kitchen fully stocked with food at your house and there is a specific meal that you were supposed to make. Meal planning ends up being good for your waist and your wallet. If there's any memberships or subscriptions that you're not actively using or you really don't get much benefit from, cancel them. Don't continue to pay for something that you're not actually using. Chances are, if you go and look through your phone, there's probably at least one app that you're paying for that you either forgot about or just don't have a need for. Along with that, never let meal subscription services trick you into thinking that they are less expensive than cooking for yourself and buying your own groceries. If you think about it, when it comes to those meal subscriptions, not only do they have to pay the chef who's coming up with the recipes, but they have to pay the individuals who are portioning out the ingredients, those that are packaging it all up, and those that have to bring it to your door. Meal subscription services are never going to be less expensive than you cooking for yourself at home. It's important that you be honest with yourself, and if you're married, your spouse or your significant other, about what type of money person you are. Are you a spender or are you a saver? Keep in mind that the type of person you are is probably going to depend a lot on what exactly it is you're buying. For example, when it comes to office supplies, I am the first to admit that I am a spender. I love office supplies. But when it comes to groceries, I am a saver. I like to buy the off-brands and buying the cheaper produce if possible, the stuff that's on sale. It's important that you be honest and understand the type of money person you are, so if your spouse is aware, you can potentially get out ahead of your tendency to maybe spend a little bit extra in some areas and use your areas that you're more of a saver as a strength to save money. Well, that covers my tips and tricks thus far on how my husband and I have managed to save ourselves money and work our way out of debt. I hope you're able to take a few ounces of wisdom from this and apply it to your own life to help save yourself some money. Don't forget to like and subscribe so you don't miss out on what's to come. I'll see you soon.